guys? Welcome back to the channel. Now I've got some explaining to do here, right? So really, I kind of just made up this thing where basically whenever we work on the car, me, friends, whatever, I've got to record it so I can keep bringing you guys content, because y'all actually, some of y'all do seem to care. Kind of shocking, but whatever. So first thing is we got to cover what's under the hood now, because a lot of you might know, because I'm sure most of y'all come from Instagram, this is no longer an LS1. So it actually started off as a L98 Cadillac motor. It's an iron block, right? So it's real strong. It's punched down to a 6.2, so we can accept internals from like a 6.3 or 6.2, so like a LS3, LSA block, whatever. So it's got DSS built for its internals with a little bit of a dome, so it's at 12.1 to 1 compression ratio. It's got LS2 heads that have it's ported by Frankenstein with their bigger valves, and then a ported Fast 102 with a Nick Williams throttle body. It's obviously on E85 because you cannot run regular gas on this high of compression. And then we had to do a little bit bigger headers because I felt the smaller Texas speeds were going to hold it back, because this motor should produce well over the 500 horsepower mark. So we have the Henson black ceramic coated headers, 1/7/8, with their matching 3-inch X pipe. And then of course I've got that Corsa Extreme in the back. So it sounds about the same. Just a little bit of a tone difference because it's got a bit more depth going to it with this motor. So what we're doing today, as you can see, this cowl covers off, and we just took it off, guys. It's just some pins and it pops off. We're doing an oil pressure sensor. Pretty much the only thing we broke pulling this motor out and putting the new one in was the oil pressure sensor. I tried to make it work. You'll see with some epoxy or whatever. But instead of pulling the whole intake track off, what we're going to end up doing is we're going to drill right over it, whatever the case may be. Careful, don't hit your intake manifold. This way, it just pops right in, pops right out, and then, you know, if it breaks in the future, which it shouldn't, it's much easier to do. So first thing we're going to end up doing is we're going to take off the battery. I'm still going to do it, even though the guys that work with me at Relentless Shine, they fucking left the key in the ignition, so this bitch is dead as a doornail right now. But we're still gonna do that for safety, and then we're gonna put it on some time lapse so y'all can see some stuff going on. We'll stop it, break up some, I guess if we come across anything interesting that y'all should know about. All right, guys, so as y'all just saw, I used a Dremel tool with like a flat blade. It just goes back and forth. It's actually pretty easy to control. I was gonna try to just drill separate holes to find it, but that was just a far better idea. So the hole's right behind the intake manifold, and you can look up in there and you can see the connection in there. That's just a big circle. That itself is our oil pressure sensor, and the clip just comes right off the top of it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna reach in there, I'm gonna finagle the connection off. Obviously pop it out, pop the new one in, and I mean, put the car back together in a sense. But that's the quick way to do it, man. I mean, it's under this cowl, so you would never know. I know you shouldn't be replacing these sensors all the time, but for me, I just, you know, with the motor swap, we had to pull this intake off 2 or 3 times, just trying to make LS stuff work with, you know, something from a decade or newer on it. So I'm pretty tired of taking that shit off, to be honest with you. So we found a backdoor way to do it. And once it's in there, man, I would love to see if, you know, it worked. But, you know, I'm sure it will. But like I said, the battery's dead. But at the end, we're going to sum it up. And then I'm going to let you guys know what the next set of videos is mostly going to be covering. And then we'll be taking this baby on some drives, because it's not tuned yet. It's on a break-in tune. But it runs, and it's definitely not an LS1 anymore. All right, so we got the wrench on it. It's a 1 1/16, so it is definitely a weird size socket. What we do, man, we do happen to have one. There we go. Oh. There we go. Yeah, and I'm going to show you, pretty obviously, but I'm going to show you why this one probably wasn't working. Like I had said in the beginning, we tried to make it work. So, yeah, that's probably why. So I'm going to show you the new one. It's right here. What we had tried to do was basically the portion that's plastic, we tried to epoxy it. That's what all this junk is, and it apparently just didn't work. It was obviously broken. This is actually a Duralast one from AutoZone. Not something I would probably super recommend for something besides maybe a sensor. This one does have a lifetime warranty, so if it doesn't work, I'm just gonna take it back, get my money back, and I'll go buy one from like AC Delco. But it does look, it's a pretty decent piece. It's got Teflon tape on there, so that's pretty cool. I'm gonna throw this in and then wrap this build up, guys, or wrap this part up. So what I'm gonna do is I would definitely recommend this. I can't actually do it with this because it's too far down. I'm gonna get it finger started and make sure this thing is in nice and straight. You put this shit in wrong and you strip. They had this part of the motor is very unlikely to be stripped in comparison to this like aluminum, but if you manage to strip it, it's going to be a real bitch to fix it. So do it with your hand. Oh, you can cut this shit out, man. This is